getting familiar with the tracking, you know, what's the rate of travel on this stuff?
And by the time it comes to budget season,
And
you're already up to speed, and not only you're up to speed, then you can already earmark the pluses and the minuses already out of the gate before before it just comes and sits on our, right.
It's not apocryphal
Right.
information, it's real information. So when you come to the table in October,
Yeah.
you're loaded for bear.
Yeah.
So I think it's good, maybe we're looking to what, I wish I have this meeting right after to go through, so I think we can look at May numbers, we can look at, we can look at August numbers.
We can give you
We can
the,
look at expenditure numbers.
Yes, I mean,
Sure.
yeah,
we
yeah,
can,
yeah. So
we
go
can
through.
get you a copy of the expenses on a monthly basis if you wanna get that detailed.
I think the chief does wanna make a comment though, or,
I would suggest that you wear a pager, just like we do 24 hours a day. We'll provide them. And you can, no, I'm just saying, or come in and visit with us.
yeah.
I only know of one gentleman that is sitting at the table that he was our representative, that has ever been in to see our operation. Come down and sit.
So Adam, this is not.
No, I'm not, can I just finish?
Yeah.
Come down and sit and go over some of the stuff with us. I totally see your side of things, but I also see that you don't understand the call side of things as far as limiting the people coming out. You can limit the people that are coming out, you're not gonna have a department. We're not operating off of a full-time department that, okay, you guys are working today, you're working a 24-hour shift, and this is your shift that you're working. There's overtime involved in that, then there's overtime involved in it. These are people that are leaving their jobs, coming in for the different stuff, such as last night, which from 9 o'clock to 5 this morning, people were there. It's not their full-time job besides myself and the captain that was there. So I'm not criticizing the way that you guys are looking at it, but you're also looking at it as a different, like a business, where it's not.
Yeah.
I know that we provide a product for people and do things, but we're not there at set hours.
Yeah. So I just want to clarify one thing, just so I make sure we're really, and Bob said this, we're not here to micromanage. It's not, I have no qualification whatsoever to say how our fire department's done. We totally trust and rely on you to do that. What we have a fiduciary responsibility to do is to make sure that the budget numbers are supportable and sustainable, and we can look at them. And I guess my concern is that the increase from this year to, from 22 to 23 is really big, and it's gonna stand out in
And
the
it's
overall scheme of thing. And so, I just wanna make sure we're really well prepared to deal with that
Right.
for
It's
next year.
due diligence for the voters. I mean, people shouldn't take it more personal than they do. It's just that I think we need to come up with I think there needs to be a change because this board's different and it's not necessarily, change isn't bad. And like I said, I was concerned, I'm bringing my concerns to the board. I think everybody's got some really good ideas. And at the end of the day, it's about being able to present it to the voters, knowing that you've done what you set out to do. That's it.
All right, I think we need to close this off at this point. We're agreeing that we're letting matters stand as they are. We're also agreeing that we're gonna look at expenditures and try to gain some insight, either supporting or negating what we feel could be happening, okay? And I think that we're also have to let go a little bit here and just look at the total expenditures for the fire department. They come in fairly close to the budget. And recognizing that there's a give and take process that goes on throughout the year, it seems that we can't be making that much of an error. So with all of that in mind, why don't we just let this go for the time being? And we'll have to just look at it over the summer months if you'd like to.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and if you wanna schedule a meeting, that's fine too.
Well, let's just get, I don't wanna call a special, but let's just agree that we should sit down, we'll make the process better
We're
next
agreeing
year.
to that.
Absolutely, yeah.
To do.
I'll make what
I'm
you
looking,
forward.
yeah, I'm just looking to work on
Yeah.
some things and get feedback from you guys as to what could be better as well.
All right, let's turn to the warrant articles for a minute. Now, I got a copy of warrant articles with the budget and the agenda and the minutes. And then when I came in, Jane had handed me a new package of warrant articles. So I would ask that you take the warrant articles that you either brought with you or you received and put a copy of this in front of you. And this will be what we're gonna be working off of tonight. I did a quick comparison between the two sets, and from what I can see, we have additional, everyone get a copy? Yes. From what I can see, the warrants that we approved last week, which were A, D, E, F, G, have not changed. And so, to the extent that we approved them last week, those will stand. What we did not do last week are Articles C
B and C.
and H,
Yeah, B, C, and
and B,
B, yeah.
yeah, okay. So we have to do those tonight,
B,
B, C, and H,
E, G,
and H. And in addition to that, beginning with Article I, we now have new articles, which we have not seen before. And those would be Articles I through O. And I'm not mentioning P because, wait a minute,
B's really.
actually it's in, it's a little bit out of order. Normally we would have the total budget at the last one. I wonder if we want to renumber those.
well, DRA is gonna tell us where we have to put those two non-monetary articles.
Okay.
So I just put them at the end.
All right. Okay. So, is everyone understanding of what I just said? Okay, okay. So why don't we begin with Article B, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $450,000 for preparation and paving of major town roads. Now, we didn't do this last week because we needed a little more information
Right.
regarding,
Right, and the reason, last year we did 400,000 on this warrant article, we went 450. Because what our plan is, and I've got a copy of it here, and we'll read it at the town meeting, but is to do the top coat entirely on Federal Corner Road, which is 189,105. Half of the reclaim and base pave of Tuftonboro Neck, which is 4,000 feet, which is 186,463. And then the prep work before paving of ditch lines and all the rest of it on Tuftonboro Neck. So that totals $457,068. And that accomplishes getting half of a major road done, one major road completely done for the top coat. And we'll get the second half of Tuftonboro Neck Road done in '24.
Can I ask a silly question?
Sure.
If it's 457, why are we asking for 450?
Because we have other we have highway block grants and we've got other money that comes in that's gonna accommodate that $7,000.
Okay.
We'll also get some grant money that's still kicking around. We just thought it would be easier
so
to.
you're happy with the 450 then?
Yeah.
Okay.
This warrant article needs to be cleaned up, right, because it says 400,000 in words and 450,000 in dollars.
Right. So the correct is the actual numerals, right?
Yeah.
Any other comments?
I was just wondering, I thought we were gonna, when we spoke last time, I thought we were gonna see something that was sort of more complete as to what sort of the plan is and what some of the thought process you went through in picking this and what the I thought the road agent put together a plan of some kind.
That's what I'm dealing with here. this is the road agent's description of the work he's gonna be doing. He also gave us paving quotes, I didn't bring them with me, but that's how we came up with
I'd be
this.
curious to see that, because again, not to be on the road agent, but in CIP, I had asked the question about roads and bids, and his response was he goes to one place because they're the best. And
Well,
so I love
he's
this.
been going to that place, but he does get other prices.
Yeah, okay. That's not what he'd said in the meeting, but that was a concern though.
Can we get something to look, I mean, it's a big number, right?
Right,
And so I heard that it's one road and another road on top of our neck and this and that's it, and then some grant money coming in. I
right.
still feel a little naked on making a vote to approve it.
Okay, so what would you like to see, Ron?
I'd like to see the road agent's report that says this is what we should be doing, this is what the plan is, this is what we're gonna do next year. I don't know, it seems to me you should be a little thoughtful. You guys, I'm sure, I have no doubt how hard you guys work, and it's really thoughtful, and you think about this a lot.
Right,
It would just be good to see the plan.
well, a lot of it is.
Because otherwise you're asking us to just like,
A lot of it's in minutes, I mean, and we can read the minutes out or get you copies of that, but when we did a drive around to look at roads, we've had a schedule of events, we did North Line Road, Dame Road, and these are major through roads, and now we wanna finish the top coat on Federal Corner Road, cause that first reclamation has been done. So the top coat price, and we can get you the calculation, is $189,000 to top coat 8,055 feet of road. So that's, and all of this is premised upon the road study that Lakes Region Planning did for us, I don't know, 5 years ago. And, you know, some roads are green, some roads are yellow, and some roads are red. And so that's how we came up with the idea of breaking it out between major roads and neighborhood roads. And so the next major road on the list is Tuftonboro Neck, and that's the one we're gonna start with next year, from this year, 23. But I can get you the breakdown of the numbers on 4,000 feet at 22 feet wide, what the cost is for grinding or reclaiming and all of that, and then the cut and remove rocks and pavement, excavate ditch, replace old metal culverts, excavate out areas with alligator cracking and fix base, remove high roadsides from buildup, and that approximate cost is $81,500. So those are numbers that he generated, because those are things that his department does. We don't sub it out.
does this department have a separate budget?
I'm sorry?
Does this department have a separate budget?
Yeah, the highway department.
So we did that, right? And then- But this
This
is not
is
part
an
of
But
that.
these are the materials in
We
there.
break out the large projects like this, so that it's a warrant article rather than in the operating budget buried to.
I have a quick question, this may be off base, but just so I understand how the process works. Why is the road agent in town not an employee of the town?
Because the road agent's an elected official, the road agent's been an elected official since the origin of the town.
Have we ever looked at changing that, or?
Well, there's been discussions over the years about changing that. There's been discussions over the years about having a highway department. The resistance to that obviously is not to create another employee base that you're dealing with, not having to buy equipment. Because once you start a highway department, now you're gonna have to buy an excavator, a bunch more dump trucks and plowing equipment. So you're not subbing it out to a highway, to a road agent.
Aren't we paying for a lot of that maintenance on equipment now anyway?
We're paying for it, yeah.
Pay for
But
the
we don't
use
own
of it.
Yeah, no,
We're not capitalizing.
I'm not trying to I'm not trying to dig in your, but I'm looking at things at an operational standpoint and saying, okay, the cost of that 81,000 obviously has a profit margin built into it. And with the amount of roads we have and things we maintain, I was just curious if that had ever gone past just a discussionary period of like, what would the actual long-term cost and savings be to bring somebody in versus, again, having that be an elected position with somebody with their own equipment that we're kind of in a way subsidizing and paying for maintenance and everything else.
Well, it's no real difference, I mean, I remember when Sandy, what's his name, came up at the corner there.
Dow.
Dow was road agent, the only thing he owned was a mini pickup truck. You know, we've had road agents in the past that hired everything done. When Steve Hunter was a road agent, he used his own equipment. When,
Sub,
I'm sorry?
sub.
Yeah.
Yeah, and subs.
He's
right.
still hired up subs
Yeah.
as well.
And some of this work might get subbed out, but,
Just wanted to understand, thank you for that.
yeah. We have 17 full-time employees, I think now, 17 or 18. And to add another 10.
It would be complex to develop a department, and then the problem is, you know, are we gonna be able to utilize their time consistently? Whereas these projects, they're done, and then there's brief periods of lull and that sort of thing that goes on. And we don't have to worry about that because the road agent is taking care of that. I agree with you that it's something that ought to be looked at and analyzed, but on the other hand, personally, I feel that we have the most flexibility and the least responsibility with this approach
So,
for a town this size.
yeah, I agree with the most flexibility. Is there a meeting I can go to where you guys are recorded, where I can,
Anytime.
Any selectmen's meeting.
we can talk about the
Anytime.
road agent, no, I can go to the select, I know that, no, but
yeah,
to get point to a meeting where you guys did the work to go through and analyze what the road budget was gonna be. Is there, without having to go, I do
Well,
actually
me
go to your
too.
meetings. I actually go to your meetings pretty often, just check through and rest, I look at the minutes first.
Okay,
The
so,
last selectmen's meeting where we discussed all this is
Up there,
posted, is always
okay.
up.
So I would like to do that.
We watched the whole meeting.
Yeah.
so-
Okay,
so-
that'd be helpful.
So is this past one,
Yeah.
is what he's asking? Okay.
Yeah.
And can we also, is there any way we can get that 5 years ago report to look at and the road
Yeah,
agents
yeah.
report? I think it'll just be two good things for us to see.
It is actually, I have a copy of it from going back about 10 or 12 years ago. And it's basically a list of all the town roads. And at that time, they weren't prioritized in any way, they just went through them sequentially. In recent years, they've labeled them, you know, difficult, more difficult, and least difficult to redo. And so there's a judgment call that's made by Jim, the road agent, which roads are gonna get attention, which roads need attention, which roads can be fitted into the budget, which ones maybe we can let go for a year, that kind of thing. And he sits with the selectmen and goes through all of that. But I agree with you, at least the list of roads that Jim developed, we should have a copy of that.
Yeah, and then I can listen to your meeting, go through that.
Sure.
Good. And then I think.
and there's a map as well, which makes it really easy on that
Right.
paving study.
Yeah.
And you can see what, although the map is old, but they're supposed to be updating it as we work through.
Right.
But to your point, I mean, it costs to maintain 42 miles of roads, costs $1.3 million in round figures a year. So if you were looking at organizing a highway department, that's the number you start with, is $1.3 million. And I think once you started pushing employees and capital equipment into that, you're gonna, and we've done that calculation in the past a long time ago, but you're way past the $1.3 million before you get to the point of,
I don't disagree, but I
Something
don't
else.
think it's an all or nothing either. I mean, I ran and developed the scrap metal recycling company to $20 million in 3 years, and you don't have to have everybody on staff. My only point was that if they're key people, there's certainly enough with, I see them doing the clearing and brush cutting and all that. I just think at some point we should, that, you know, somebody in the town, you guys, the selectmen, whatever, should look
Right.
at what that number is and what it makes sense to bring on a couple of people, key people, and then the rest you do it kind of how you've been doing it. But I think there's a way to hedge it and softly step into it. I mean, when you look at the amount of people moving to town and development going on, there's gonna be that crossing on the Mason-Dixon line at some point, and I think that we
oh, I'm
need to
sure
be
there
prepared.
probably will, but
Yeah.
it's just, and I don't know that, I think it would be difficult to have an elected road agent and then foist on him, town employees. It starts,
Well, that's why, my point was more of like, can you get the road agent to be the salaried person and a couple key people with him? That way you're having a little bit more control over what's you know, put through, again,
Mhm.
I don't wanna take up time on this, but my point was, that obviously has a good profit built into it, everything else, it's his own business. And, when you're trying to control costs in the town, and expansive numbers that keep coming across are in front of us, I think it's important to find a way to control it as much as you can, that's all. And that 450
Well,
is
we're,
certainly-
okay, not to belabor this, but we expanded this number over last year's number to accomplish more work. Last year, the number was 400,000, so we've increased it to by $50,000. And the same with neighborhood roads.
And that was really driven by the cost of asphalt and fuel and everything that's gone up in the last, because we're looking at a 25%
Yeah, I mean, we could
increase.
stay at 400,000 and just do less,
Mm.
but at some point in time, that's gonna catch up with
Or,
it.
can't defer the maintenance forever.
Right.
So can, we have a January 31st meeting.
What's
We
that?
we don't have to approve this article. We don't have to approve this article now, right?
You wanna table it?
I'd like to table it until we get the information.
Make a
chance
motion,
to look
not to go from there.
at it. I have one more question. So on last year's, do we spend the 400,000 on last year?
Yep.
And how much do we get in grant money?
Oh, I'd have to look it up, we got quite a bit.
Can we also take a look and see what, can we, somebody on one piece of paper, what last year looked like? Does the road agent do a report on what 22 looked like? And what money's in, money's out?
Yeah, I mean, it's coming from two different places, because you're getting it from the general budget and the warrant articles, and then you're getting it from grant money, which is off budget. But we've got both of those calculations. That's easy to come up with.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to table Article B.
Is there a second?
I second.
You wanna do,
Might as
C
well
as
do
well?
C.
C as well.
What's the table Article B?
Okay.
Is there any further discussion, Bob?
Yeah, 2022, we received $81,000 in highway block grant money.
Thank you.
All right, let's
But
take,
we also use some ARP
Use some ARPA funds as well.
funds on it.
all right, let's take a vote on tabling. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I'm opposed.
Gary did. Gary.
Okay.
Before we go on,
Yeah.
forgive me for being perhaps a rookie question.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that when we're going over these warrant articles, it's really, it feels to me more like a rubber stamp, that the selectmen have done their job in terms of preparing the warrant articles.
Yeah.
And so what's our job here?
Well, your job is, no, you're making an assumption that's not right. You should be looking at these critically, there's no doubt about that.
Okay.
I don't feel that I need to table it for a good reason. This particular amount of money for this particular item, for years has been under pressure to be increased.
Mhm.
That's where the real pressure is.
Right.
The road agent will take this money and he'll go as far as he can with whatever he can get asphalt for. We used to call this a special tar account. And for years, it was $180,000, and the road agent just bought as much tar as he could and went as far as he could. And then we started to question, well, which roads are gonna be done before other roads? So we had him do a list.
Mm.
I have no doubt that there's no way we can make a mistake on this warrant article. That's why I voted no on it, okay? I wanted to bring your
Oh,
attention
no,
to
and
that.
I'm not questioning your,
But
I am genuinely asking
Yeah,
the
but-
question of, what is it we're trying to accomplish
Okay,
here?
you have, it's a pass-fail from your standpoint.
Mhm.
The selectmen have asked for this amount of money.
Yep.
They've approved it, regardless of Guy's strange interpretation of being a selectman. You're asked whether or not you want to approve this money, or recommend it. You can say no.
Right, but,
But
so,
if
But you
you,
say no for two reasons. It's not enough, or it's too much.
you can only say no.
Yeah, but
But in your heart of hearts.
it's hard to watch. You
Yeah.
can, critical, you can,
Sure.
your
But if you say
rationale.
no,
Yeah,
if 4 of you say no, there won't be any paving done this year,
Okay, so, that being said,
right?
going further with my question, how am I supposed to know whether 450,000 is a reasonable number and not 300,000 or 560,000?
To the point.
Give me the data.
So that's,
No,
and that's
no,
a
okay, I'll put up with Rob asking that question, I'll put up with you asking that question, but it won't matter, because you're not gonna make that decision. You're not gonna,
But I have a fiduciary responsibility to
well then vote no,
No, but no, why am I gonna vote no?
because you don't have the authority to change that number.
So I'm gonna push back on you because I got read his regulations. His regulation says I can ask whatever information I want that I need necessary to vote on. And so I'm
Absolutely.
asking for the information to
And-
vote on.
And you're gonna get it.
Yeah, and so
But
that's
you're
why
not
I'm not
gonna-
gonna vote
okay,
until I get
just
the
so you
information.
know.
I know, I can
You're not
vote
gonna-
yes or no.
You're not gonna change the number.
I'm not gonna change anything other than
Okay.
yes or no. I totally get it, but if but it's really important to me, because
No,
I'm
but-
an elected official here, no matter how that happened,
All of the
to
information.
vote, to do my fiduciary responsibility as much work as I think I need to do to vote yes.
So up until this point, so here's a reason for my confusion. Up until this point, we've got a binder full of data,
Yeah.
and a lot of data. When we come to this point, there's none. And so so all of these, I'm like, I don't know.
Remember, these are guidances from prior years, we don't know, and so we're getting into the details of a specific line item, 450,000 for 2 roads, right? We're not, and it's not our job, again, to go through, like, say, Adam or the police departments and what they're spending on each line item, that's the selectmen, right?
Yeah.
I think we're going off of historical comparisons, which a lot of our commentary and everything else for voting has been to. We don't have, there is comparison, the 3 of us, right, like with the newer people, we don't have the historicals part. The reason why I voted the table is the same thing, as I wanna see that detail so I can understand it. And I'm making up, that's probably the same for Rob, to kind of say, okay, what is going into this, and does this make sense to be able to make that decision, yes, no, to vote for the article? We don't have the data, we have 5 years in here for the departments, line by line, pretty much. We don't have that, and that doesn't.
Right, and so my question was a genuine one. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
understand the process.
Yeah, well, I think you're all correct. I think you're all involved in
And it
agreeing
may
on
be
this.
more informative to look at what we did in 22.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, we have $400,000, how'd you spend it?
Yeah.
And do that catalog, so that you,
And see the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we knocked off the plan, this is what we're
I
not.
think what you need to understand is that there are some budget items that you do need to see if there's a sense of realism in the numbers, okay?
Yeah.
This is one of these items, and I know this only from the fact that I've been here for a few years.
Sure.
We spend it, and it gets spent in a very visible way. It's right on the roads, okay? And so, in my mind, if the selectmen come to me and say that this is the number that they decided that they will want to raise and spend, I can accept it because of the nature of this work, okay? So that's why I'm okay with it. But I agree with you completely. There are other line items when you should look at them, see what the basis is, okay?
Wouldn't it make sense on a forward-moving basis
Yeah.
if the presentation of the warrant articles followed a similar standard as every other budget? That you were presented with, here's the warrant, and as part of the package for that warrant, here's the backup data, so people can review it. So when you come to the table to talk about it, everybody has all of the same information,
Well,
and
yeah.
you can eliminate a lot of the nonsense.
Okay, yeah.
Oh,
Well, let's
we
remember,
don't know.
this came from the CIP.
Thank you. This is all, thank you.
This has
Thank you
been
very
somewhat vetted by the CIP already, okay? And so now, because we have responsibility for the total budget, it comes under our tent where we have to include it as part of our budget. But you should in the back of your mind realize that it's been pretty heavily vetted already.
Some of these warrant articles have been very heavily vetted,
Vetted,
yes.
right,
The
right.
CIP has,
Right.
in the beginning, saying, every department,
Yeah,
wish list, want, need.
So quickly, and again, not to
Yeah.
drag this out, I was on CIP.
Yeah,
I resigned from CIP because when I get told, when I ask questions like you do very well,
Yeah.
that I was told that we just gather information, we don't ask, we don't really scrutinize. So I left CIP, because I get frustrated when I can't get to a better understanding of certain items. So we're getting off track, but the point is, I think that what they do is a wonderful thing, I was part of it.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot more scrutinizing that goes on between the selectmen and the budget committee where appropriate to kind of make those decisions, so I think they're mostly collecting information, I don't think they're really saying, is $450,000 for road the right thing? They're saying, hey, here's $450,000 for this year, is it gonna fit in, or is it gonna put over capital reserves? At least that's was my experience with
Well,
CIP.
I think, the information that you're reporting to me is reprehensible.
Sure,
Okay,
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
But again, I just wanna draw your attention to the fact that there are some warrant articles that are of a certain nature, and there's other ones that are of another kind of nature. This is one that is just gonna wind up on the roads. It's as simple as that, okay? I mean, there's no way that it can be overstated. Because,
But Gary, I agree with you.
Yeah.
We're gonna spend the money, I just wanna see how it's gonna be
Yeah,
spent,
yeah,
and what we're gonna
yeah.
be buying for it, to make sure
and
that.
I think what's missing here is that I think we should have gotten a list of the roads, and should have
Yeah.
been, maybe to show the ones that are check marked that they're gonna do, and as Chip was explaining, there's a certain amount of work that goes on.
You good to look up?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, in the preparation for it and all that sort of thing. So yes, that would have been helpful. So the motion to the table carried, so let's just go from there. And maybe we can have a little bit of that information for the next meeting, and we'll decide this,
When's
okay?
the next meeting?
Huh?
31st.
So, are you available on Monday, or is that
Which Monday?
like next Monday?
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's easier to do it when I've got staff to gather stuff. And the selectmen are meeting on Monday.
The 23rd.
What time?
Is it a morning meeting, Bob, or a night meeting?
I don't know.
Okay.
The 23rd.
Yeah. I'll
Should
let
be
you-
at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Is it 4:30?
Yeah, 'cause it's the 4th.
Yesterday would have been our morning meeting,
Right.
but it was a holiday.
Okay, so it's 4:30 in the afternoon, is that okay?
That's close to me. Should I put it on my calendar right now?
Sure.
Just hold it.
Okay, and we'll put it on the agenda,
That's from again?
yeah.
All right, I think we're all set here now. We've tabled Article B.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make a motion to table Article C.
What's that?
I'm gonna make a motion to table Article C.
Article C also?
Same reason, yeah.
All right, so Article C, let me just read it though, and then you can have a motion to table it.
Okay.
To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 for preparation and paving of a couple of our neighborhood roads. So, you know, this is a companion, obviously, to Article B, but a couple of years ago, it was decided that some of the roads that aren't connected roads weren't receiving attention. So it was time to at least put a dollar value on that and make sure that some of the non-connecting roads started to get some attention. And so that's the reason for this particular article. All right, so go ahead.
I make a motion to table Articles C until the next meeting.
All right, do I have a second on that?
A second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No? Okay. Table. There's one more of these that are left over. Article H. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $125,000 to replace and equip the fire department's 2010 car one.
Right, we've got the replacement pricing here, we got bids from the Pony, Dodge, Chevy, Ford, Ram, Plus Motors, and Rochester Ford. And I can get you, are you passing the copies of this? Okay, so there was a low cost, high cost, and average cost, and fully equipped, it's 123. 881.
And that additional is just to cover for any increase in the market.
Right,
from that.
we haven't actually purchased it.
Yeah.
We're at 125.
And that goes to, if we don't spend it, it goes to undesignated as usual?
Right, right.
What happens to the, I know the existing car is very old.
The other car,
We'll go out to bid.
yeah, it goes
Auction.
out to Craigslist or someplace.
And so why is it 125 versus 100?
So that's what I
Yeah,
was.
There's a back page.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, oh, there you go.
So
It's the equipment.
107, 758 is the low, that's our target, but mid is 123, 881, and high is 131. So if we can get it for $108,000, then there'll be a little money left over.
And we continue to get, because we had sent out 15 different letters to 15 different dealerships, and we're still getting some stuff back as well as it goes, so we're hoping to get better pricing and a guaranteed pricing, even though that today it's tough.
This was a 3/4 ton or a 1 ton?
It's a 3/4 ton.
3/4? Does the state do 3/4 ton bidding?
For some of the stuff, it depends on what you're looking at as far as vehicle wise. If they have, like a 4-door and stuff like that, sometimes it's not worth going into the state side of things, for the bidding, because things get boosted up if it's not specifically matching their, what
Criteria.
they are,
Yep.
bidding out. But if the state side of things, if the company that has the state bidding can do that, then that's what we'll go after.
I'm surprised, these must be different vehicles in somewhat, right? They are different vehicles, yeah. Okay, that's it.
Jane, will you put in the minutes that the chief passed out supporting documentation for this warrant? Any discussion? Do I have a motion to accept?
I have a motion to accept Article H as presented.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A, carried unanimously. The next article is Article I, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $300,000 for the purchase of and installation of a 100 kilowatt solar electric generation facility. $90,000 to come from federal rebate. $210,000 to be raised by taxes. This is a non-lapsing article.
We've gotten four bids, or proposals on this, because we haven't put an RFP out on it. All around 100 kW. One was 93, one was 91. I just got one this morning for a 48 panel, 100,000 kilowatt installation. So installed, and this one came in at $210,000 before the tax credit, so we'll have to take a closer look at this one, I think.
Was there any calculation on the payback that we got out of this?
There is a calculation on the payback, and that, depending on which system you choose, it ranges between 3 and 6 years.
3 and 6?
And a 25-year life of the panel.
What-
Turns it to-
Sorry, lost my train of thought.
Okay, the goal here is we spend $32,000 a year on power for all the municipal operations, and we need to make the equivalent in solar. It's a good investment.
So this is not for storage, correct? This is put back into the system?
Right, we're working on, well, we started discussions with the co-op, because that's our major provider, about selling it to them, if you will.
Do we,
All of these, go ahead.
what, is there a contract that's associated with? So in other words, we're assuming they're going to buy the power from us. Is there a contract that goes along with that?
Well, yeah, I'm sure there will be. It hasn't been drawn up yet. And part of the problem is that they have two methods of operation, and one of them is a net metering operation, which is kind of closer to what we would need to do. But net metering doesn't work on this size project, so we need to talk about creating a paradigm which works with this one.
Can we see the proposals? And my history with this is,
Mhm.
the only guys that make money on it
Mhm.
are the guys on Wall Street. Just
Right,
saying,
because-
I've been told, I've looked at it for prep school, looked for a whole bunch of people.
And that,
Yeah.
I mean, we're offered a power purchase agreement, so nothing, it wouldn't cost the town anything, zero.
Right.
And then get a land lease. We get land lease money, and I think that works out to about $3,000 to $5,000 a year. That doesn't solve our issue.
Right.
So this is our pure ownership of the project. We could sell the power ourselves, we could get into a wholesale agreement with some other power distributor than New Hampshire Electric. But the 100,000 kilowatt, or the 100 kilowatt power production is owned by Tufton Borough. And now it's a matter of figuring out how we're gonna the best return on that investment.
So it would be good to see, can we see the proposals and what the economics look like on it to make sure it does in effect? Because you're gonna have that, the voters are gonna ask those questions, I would imagine. They're gonna stand up and say, well, you know, how much money do we get back, and who owns it, and who has the cash flow, and how is it metered,
I can see if the office is open. But I mean, your assumption, and I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning, so I
So you're
might get a little-
grumpy.
might get a little edgy. Your assumption is that we don't think of those things.
No, it's not
But
true.
we will, in fact, present all of those numbers to the voters. If you need to see them because you don't believe what we're saying, that's fine, I'll present them to you, you can table this.
But it goes back to the other issue, Jeff, where you're asking us to, as a budget committee, sign off that this is, that we agree with this is a good thing, right? And you're giving us this and saying you got 4 bids.
Yeah.
And that's all the information I've gotten on it tonight, so I don't feel comfortable with that.
Hey, no, I'm fine. I think
I'm
we're
sorry, I
better tabling it.
What's that?
Today we're better tabling
Okay, let's
it.
table it. Can we cover this on Monday, the day two?
No, I can get you the figures, yeah, I'll get you all of that information, and get it to all the different members, so they can all take a look at it.
And can I ask one other question? Sorry.
Just for clarification
Yeah.
purposes.
There's only one
This is the presentation method
in this area of
that,
Walton
for the last
And-
6
and
years
Walton
and the
didn't
previous 3 years when I did it
Rents property
before,
from them.
I was
They
the
said we were
budget
the
committee
first
member
town
from the
to
select board.
approach
This is
them.
how we did it. So,
Blame him, you told me to go back and read.
no,
All
that,
the articles
no,
and notes.
no, blame me, because maybe in September I should have asked, you know, what's gonna work for you folks? And I didn't, so shame on me.
It's fine.
It will happen again.
We're all growing here together.
Okay.
It's a good
Yeah.
thing. So can I ask just one other thing on this? When we say we were appropriating 300,000, even though 90,000 is gonna be off balance sheet.
Yeah.
So isn't the appropriation 210?
It is, no, it's raised from taxes to town, but the ERA doesn't let you write a warrant article like that.
The DRA wants to know the total cost.
Yeah.
That's there, 300,000.
Right,
But we have to break out how much the taxpayers are going to
right.
be asked to
I get
raise.
it, this is raise and appropriate.
That's
This
right,
is good
that's right.
language. Okay, thank you.
And that's essentially what they're voting on.
When they audit the numbers, they're gonna look at
Yeah,
income numbers that came in that were extraordinary, or extraordinary. So that'd be the $90,000 we
yeah,
wouldn't normally get.
I get it.
If this is, if someone motions to table this, I would support that, because we're already gonna be looking at some other tabled ones. But more importantly, my understanding of these arrangements is that a number of years ago, they were very good because the agreement that you made with the utility company was for a given rate that you would be getting back when you put the power back into the system.
Yes, right.
And that the utility companies have become a little more squirrely about that. And in other words, I don't think that I would want to go along with something that's gonna be invariably approved from year to year in terms of what we're gonna get for payback. I'm not disturbed over the fact that some years we may not be able to put a lot of power back into the system because of a lot of clouds in the air, but I wanna know that we're getting something from the utility company that's rock solid for some period of time. And I'd like to, and I'm encouraged by the fact that you say we could get paid back within 6 years. That's great.
That's
So-
also dependent on the state and the SREC credits being funded through the state to get that credit back that the utility company gets, in my experience. Maybe you have similar things.
Yeah, it was,
Well, that's all part of the agreement that we
Yeah.
make with the utility company, right? Yeah. But
Okay.
in
So-
general, I'm in favor of this. but-
$90,000 is not utility company or state money, that's federal.
Right, yeah.
No, I'm saying the SREC credit, so when you sell the power off and you come to the agreements, there's a method, I'm sure you know, with, you're getting credit through SREC credits. Some of that's funded, as you know, through federal and some through state, but there's no guarantee in those monies. The state and the government, Thursday could go insolvent, right? So those SREC credits could not be there, not handed to the utility company, and then you're not getting diddly-do from the utility company.
But that's, okay, those are two different things.
Yeah.
The actual electricity is set by the utility.
Of course, I
company.
understand that.
That extra credit, I don't know, $25,000-$30,000 a year is in flux, if you will, because it has to be funded annually, so,
if these federal, so is this a federal tax credit?
no.
It's a federal,
No,
the feds
it's-
actually let
it's-
it dot to
It's a
municipality?
it's a rebate,
Because how this used to work before
it was a tax credit.
was it that the guys on Wall Street took and they
And we
paid
never
50 cents on the dollar
we don't-
for it.
Right,
The
and the
municipalities can't get that tax
And
credit.
And
municipalities,
that's right, so what
So
happened
they
was,
changed it.
yeah, so you know what they used to do, which is disgusting,
yeah,
was that the guys, most of the guys wanted to put these in, couldn't use the tax credits. So what they did was that they were bought by guys on Wall Street.
You'd enter a power purchase agreement.
Yeah, and they did the whole thing in the credit way, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
It was
no,
truly
this is, and they changed that just this past year,
No, it's good to know that.
Okay.
make it a little level playing field.
Where's this facility gonna be, here on this?
Transfer
property,
station.
On the transfer, at this transfer
or
station.
Transfer station?
Yeah.
And who's gonna oversee the project, Jack? The
Yeah,
install,
we'll put a project together with an RFP and we'll have a
Jack?
clerk, if you will, or in the form of Jack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to table Article I to the next meeting.
All in favor?
Right.
Aye. All opposed? Carried unanimously. Article J, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to establish an Engine 4 capital reserve fund for the purpose of purchasing and equipping a new fire truck as suggested by the Capital Improvements Committee.
I've got just one thing, I've got to apologize, so when I talked to the selectmen on Friday, they asked which truck was up for replacement. It is engine 4
Okay.
is the next truck for replacement. The capital improvement was suggesting $100,000 in 2023 when I read that over, for engine 1, because it's gonna be $1.3 million when it comes up. And they were suggesting that we lease purchase engine 4. So I'll let you make the decision on that outcome.
And what's the replacement cost for engine 4?
Right now, the estimate's $850,000.
Okay.
I have one quick question, Adam. From what I was able to kind of see more with CIP and the, what you guys do and sitting with Captain Pike there, it was super enlightening. But one of the things I still had a question about was some of these engines are being custom built because of the nature of a couple of the stations, right? The height restriction. The selectman maybe can answer this. Is there no feasible way to raise those buildings and not have to do custom built fire trucks, or is that just like a question from outer space for me?
No, I think we could probably look at that when we get to the point of having to make that decision. We haven't, I haven't seen a fire engine come through in this past 5 or 6 years that needed to be custom built for the
They-
station.
They're all
They're all
fire
custom
engines are
built.
custom built in today's day and age.
No, I know that, but one of the things that maybe I misinterpreted the captain, they were saying that we had to do something custom with height compared to a normal standard, specifically because of a couple of our stations were lower in height. Is that-
All of our apparatus stays under 9'5".
But again, that's because of our specific buildings, right?
Yes.
So would it be, in your opinion, and in your experience, if the buildings were of a normal height, would you see that cost of rebuilding some of these engines coming down a little bit, or because of the nature of the customization of the height, or what's your experience?
I don't think that repairing the buildings, the cost of going through the buildings is gonna outweigh, I mean, it would be great as far as that goes, but I think that redoing the buildings totally as far as, because we've looked at trying to, you know, whether or not you could just put more blocks in and
That's
things
what I
like
thought,
that.
Jack and
It's-
block it.
Yeah, this,
And you're getting them the monies to put towards other equipment that you desperately need, rather than an engine that
But,
needs to be
in
cut down
to-
size.
I think in today's day and age, the cost is, most of the apparatus is, you know, custom built as far as for the towns and things like that. So it's not a big difference.
So can I understand where we are? I read the CIP report and I went back and just refreshed myself. So we put no money, this is a 2024-2026 event that we're looking at, right?
Right.
And we had, it's 850,000, best guess at this point in time. And there's nothing in reserve right now. Right, and the
For this
thought,
particular one,
for this,
there are, right,
Yeah.
but there
Yeah.
are other capital reserve funds.
For different,
For different.
different vehicles.
vehicles. But for this one, there is, this is the next one coming up. And it says we're gonna try and lease, we're gonna be, we have to actually
Well-
lease this.
That's CIP's
Recommendation.
recommendation.
Okay.
This is just to put the money aside.
Right.
And the reason why they've decided to start doing this is because instead of coming up with a big chunk of change, they would just put a little bit into a capital reserve fund, they'll sit there, it'll get interest, and then by the time it comes to the purchase of, the major purchase of whatever it is, whether it's a fire truck, police, whatever, that's what they started
And rather
doing
than-
not too long ago, really.
Rather than increasing our debt. So right here, I mean, you can total up the warrant articles that are here, but once you start lease purchasing fire engines, you're just reducing that number for other things that you may wanna do, like paving. So it was our thought to put money, start putting money aside, and we used to have capital reserves
Yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah,
And why 50,000?
well, yeah,
Yeah.
well, that was probably a judgment call on their part. I don't mean to interrupt their line of thought on that, but I just wanted to say that another problem that's happening with the CIP is that they're following a progression line of how much capital expenditure we can do each year. And some of the items that we're putting on that line are big ticket items. So the line just becomes totally meaningless if you've got like two big items. You're gonna be like 40% over what it should be. So it makes sense to go back to a system of having reserve accounts, which are smaller amounts of money, and it's flowing along the line, you know, and you can have more things covered from year to year, so that's.
And it's not, I mean.
Basically, the difference between saving for a car and buying a
Yeah,
car on a loan.
yeah.
I mean, it's that simple, really.
Yeah, and I think, Craig, if you know you got these things coming,
Yeah.
you know you're using them as they're going along here,
Mhm.
so we should be paying for it as we go. It should be, you know, pay as you go and not borrow it from.
Right, and that's what
from
this
your
is
children
calling
to the
for, right?
future, right,
Yeah.
right.
Chief, one question, what's the useful life of an engine for you guys?
20 years,
Oh, it is 20, you're keeping it 20 years?
yes.
Oh, wow, okay.
So the question I have is, how much is in reserve right now for fire engines? Zero.
None.
This is,
That's-
for
why do you
this
guys-
particular one, it's starting at, this is the first.
No, but he says for all fire engines, it's zero.
No, I thought we had some already.
Not for fire engines.
Not for
We've
fire
lease purchased everything
Yeah.
Up to this point.
up to this point.
Okay.
Mm.
So
Air packs,
why'd you
we
guys
did
agree
that.
on 50? Why 50,000? It was
We're opening up
150,000.
we're opening up the, capital reserve. There's none there now.
So it was a decision, having been on the CIP this year, it was basically a decision looking at previous years, looking at this year's, and we were already from a CIP standpoint, we're already higher than we were comfortable being. So there were numbers that got higher and some that got lower, and this particular one was starting at the 50K. There's at least one other engine that I'm aware of that it goes out of my, help me here, like at least 10 years.
Well, that's CIP is 10 years. Everything.
Right.
When it falls into the first year of that 10 years, that's when it gets put in.
Right, so there is a plan for that particular vehicle to be fully paid by the time it gets to it. This particular one, unfortunately, we won't have started it soon enough, so we're putting 50,000 in to juice the fund, but we're still gonna end up having to do a lease buy, or what do they call it, lease
And we're-
purchase.
If
Or
you
increase the increments in
You're gonna-
out years.
When you watch the video.
If you wanna know how
there's
I
a
got
very
to the
deep
number.
discussion on this too.
and prevailed, is I'm looking at the total warrant articles of 1,000,002, 1,192. That's about where we need to be. We need a warrant article to start something here. But if you spend $300,000 on solar and another $300,000 for all intents and purposes on Union Wharf, that's $600,000 you're not seeing going forward. So you're gonna have other projects, but I'm looking at capital projects in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years. So this warrant may be enriched by $150,000 or $100,000 next year.
Right.
Does the Melvin Wolf count? I thought it didn't count, and it shouldn't count in the 1.2, because we're taking that out of reserve, it's already been set aside, right?
But we've already spent, yeah, we have taxed for it, we haven't spent it, it's coming back out
Yeah.
of the,
So we're not being
Designated
taxed, we're not
fund.
being taxed for it.
but, well, you're already taxed for it. so-
But it's not in the 1.2 for this year.
Right, so at any, but, and I'm using those numbers, or those items as big ticket items that aren't gonna reoccur. You know, Union Wharf will be done, the solar will be done, hopefully paying
Yeah.
for itself. So if you're looking forward at 24, maybe you can put $100,000 in this engine account, maybe you can
Right.
calculate out, and this is just a.
It's a starter.
A stepping off point.
Yeah, beginning.
Okay.
Are we ready to vote on this?
Yes.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to accept Article J as written.
Any second?
I'll say.
Okay. All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Alright.
All opposed? Carried unanimously. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $36,130 to purchase and equip a compactor to replace compactor number 2 at the transfer station. I guess, Chip, this is the one that got turned down last year.
No,
No,
no, that was for
No.
paper recycling.
that was
Yes, it's
recycling.
This is actually to replace a compactor that's aged out.
Okay,
So it's number 2
gotcha,
compactor.
okay,
This is a trash one?
I'm sorry?
This is a trash compactor?
Yeah.
yeah.
So we actually own those, it's not, Waste Management doesn't provide them as
No,
part of
we
our
own
fund?
them.
Wow, okay.
We own it.
Now, just for clarity, Chip, remind me, this is for a third compactor, are we actually getting rid of one, or we're
No,
gonna?
this is replacing compactor 2.
And
We
we-
didn't put any money in here to put that old compactor into a different spot.
We didn't, okay.
Any other discussion?
This was bid out, right? We have a bid on this one.
Yeah,
invoice.
there'll
We know what it
there'll be an
cost us.
RFP that goes out
Okay.
after the town meeting.
Okay. Are we ready to move on this?
One last final question, sorry.
Chip,
So why do we own them and not get a lease or part of the agreement with Waste Management?
Well, it's hard enough to control Waste Management's pricing
Yeah.
as it is.
Yeah.
They asked for an additional 8% in September because of fuel costs. We've never had a fuel surcharge with our negotiated contract. We have the ability to own them. The maintenance hasn't been a killing factor. But I'm not sure I wanna get in too many agreements, and this is just me speaking, with Waste Management, whether we, in equipment leasing, you know, we control our transfer station to a large degree, or to a great degree. And I think we need to keep it that way.
So are you saying like, again, if we leased it, then we'd have to, utilize them, but if we own our own compactors, you could technically use another provider?
Right, or you contained your cost to your capital cost for your compactor.
Yeah.
You haven't contained your cost in the lease.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
I come from this industry and I've never seen any entity own their own compactor, so it's just something new to me and just trying to understand the thought process on it.
Well, go back to the highway department discussion. You know, we're currently leasing out the highway repairs to the road agent for all intents and purposes. And he thought it might be a better idea for the municipality to own everything and run it. And that's what we do here at the transfer station.
No, I understand. Equipment versus labor is totally different items. That's what I was trying to understand.
How many years did we get out of the previous one?
15.
A lot of years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says 15.
Yeah, 15, I guess.
So, a couple grand a year to own it,
And to your, just quickly to that point, you're talking about totally different things. I think you're simplifying what I'm saying. When you got a road agent that has a self-interest to do work and can charge any amount of money, somewhat guided by you guys, sure, versus a compactor that's a tit for tat, is it a Chevy or is it a Porsche, are two totally different things. So I kind of take a little bit of resentment to the comment on that, because I think
Well, not to
there's
much,
such
not to
a,
get too conversational about
Yeah.
this, but he gives us a rate sheet
yeah,
for his man hours and all his equipment hours. And that rate sheet is compared to the market rates that are going on around here. So when he charges $80 an hour for an excavator, and I know it's gonna cost us $110 for an average citizen to rent an excavator with an operator, I know he's not overcharging us at the highway department. I have no, and I didn't make the original agreement on this compactor, but I have no comfort in thinking that you or me or anybody else would be able to figure out what Waste Management's profit margin is on a compactor, or how to negotiate a reasonable
I'll
lease.
sit down with you and help you with it.
Okay, or how to negotiate a reasonable lease,
No,
because I, yeah.
Yeah.
agree with that.
I'd be happy to sit down
It's
with you.
just a business decision that was made
That's fine.
25, 30 years ago when they built the compactor and shut down Fred Sargent and the open pit.
Mhm.
Just as an aside, and this is not a clinical kind of statement, but you go to one of our town meetings, the first thing someone's gonna do is raise their hand and say, why don't we just buy that damn thing? I don't wanna be involved with paperwork and believe it or not, that's the way a lot of these people vote. And particularly on an item like this that's not real high priced. And it's sort of like not seen and not, not, they'll think that way.
And they're making the decision. You bury it in the operating budget and they never make the decision because they're not going line by line.
Yeah. Anyway, I just put that out there for what it's worth. Are we ready to move on this? Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move to approve Article
Okay,
K
as
Second.
written.
as written, yeah. There you go.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carried unanimously. Article L, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to establish a capital reserve fund for the purpose of purchasing and equipping a new wheeled loader for the transfer station.
All right, Chris, I don't know if you got Chris's,
No?
so
You got-
he had gotten bids from Cat and John Deere and Case for a wheel loader to replace the backhoe that's currently in service up there. And $173,000 was the purchase price on the wheel loader, average purchase price. The current backhoe that he's using is in service. It gets maintained, it probably will need a little more maintenance this year, but our feeling was it wasn't time to just cut a check for a new wheel loader. We need a little more planning or a little more use of the backhoe that we currently have. So we can start a capital reserve and go forward.
So this is for, the wheel loader is for, what's the intention of the use?
It would replace the backhoe that's currently being used.
Wheel loader can't compact containers, though, right?
They had a plan.
I got the impression that, that the reason the wheel loader was requested was more for moving,
Well, they need
Than it
to,
was
it's
for-
better for moving the containers that are full.
right,
Because you have more
oomph.
oomph. The compacting of the glass is easy enough to do with a wheel loader.
How
Maybe
old's the
the,
backhoe?
won't it?
It's
No, how old, sorry.
pretty,
Yeah, it's,
pretty old from what I
It's
understand.
pretty old, how many hours on it?
um,
Sorry, wrong question, not age, hours.
yeah, I have to find that out very precise.
That's okay, just a guesstimate. No idea.
I thought he said it was somewhere around 10,000, but I'm just
Okay.
guessing.
That's fine.
There was a major repair done to it this year.
So there was a major,
Well, it was sort of major, it was transmission
Yeah.
business,
gotcha, okay.
so.
I think the other part of it too is that they wanted to use it for snow removal as well
Yeah,
Right.
at the transfer station.
Right,
that's in the CIP.
because we did turn them down, because we do have the snow boxes that they push around with the skid steer.
Hmm.
And we did turn them down on a pickup truck, so.
But this is getting to a reserve, right? So no decisions, this is getting to a reserve.
Yes,
But it's
Right.
going for this specific.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I'm wondering whether, just given, I don't know how much work you've done, and maybe you guys are really comfortable with it going, to capital reserve, as opposed to equipping a new wheeled loader. Do you wanna be that specific with it? Was 50,000 for
because-
buying a new transfer of moving mobile equipment? You know it's a wheel loader that you're gonna buy.
Right, that's what was asked for, that's what was presented, but more importantly, you need to be that specific or it just doesn't pass DRA's
Right,
credibility test. It has to, so if we decide next year, nah, wheel loader's not the way to go, then this money goes back to the taxpayer and it doesn't get spent. If we decide,
Doesn't go back to taxpayer, right? It just gets put into the reserve account, right?
yeah, but ultimately it does get, that can't accumulate forever.
Yeah.
right.
But maybe a wheel loader is not what we need, then it gets canceled. Maybe we need a better wheel loader, a bigger one, or a four-wheeler, I don't know. Next year's warrant article may be different.
Chip, let me ask you a question, I think I'm correct on this. If we approve this, this really establishes the reserve account.
Right.
When we go to buy it, we also have to go back to the voters and make a motion to expend.
No, what
No.
okay,
No, it's an expense.
This one is, it's not, that doesn't say that here, and that's why
yeah, because it's not enough money to buy it.
yeah,
So when we go, let's say it's $173, we do $50,000 a year for 2 years, now we got the next year,
yeah.
and we're gonna buy it
Yeah.
for the additional $73,000.
Mhm.
That warrant article has to read it
Yeah,
with,
at that point,
that we're gonna buy a wheel loader for $173,000. $100,000 is in capital reserve,
Right.
$73,000 is asked for,
Right,
and we're
right.
gonna spend it.
which will be exactly what, that's the way this will play out, because
It
we get,
has to,
yeah,
yeah,
okay,
it's not, we can't spend this money.
right. Right,
So, you know.
yeah. Okay. Any further questions? Have a motion to accept?
a motion that we accept it as written,
Okay,
$50,000, capital reserve.
I'll second it.
okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed?
No,
Not carried unanimously, one dissenting and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 approving, 5 to 0.
His was a- his
I
was-
voted no.
his is
a- I'm sorry.
No, I should say
Four-
no.
four-
Yeah, no, yep.
4 to 2,
4 to 2.
yeah,
I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, it's not.
split decision.
Are we allowed to ask if anyone would like to share why they voted no?
If you've got the moxie, go ahead, go for it.
Sure.
No, I mean,
I wanna share.
if you asked me, I would tell you, so there's no.
Yeah, because I'm obviously making a decision here, and I've
Sure.
got two people sitting on the same committee as me, who had all the same
Sure.
information, as one
Sure.
about something different.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
And you don't have to, you can say, I would like, rather not.
So for me, I'm close to this industry, and when I hear that the machine is gonna be used for snow moving in a limited space that is, and also compacting containers, moving containers, you don't use a wheel loader for that. You can't compact, material inside of a container with a wheel loader, the bucket won't fit in, and you don't need a glorified golf cart, in my opinion, driving around pushing snow on a tractor, space like that, you need something different. So I think it's a tremendous amount of money to spend on a piece of equipment that I don't think personally is necessary.
Okay,
It's my opinion.
It's not the right piece of equipment, ditto.
okay.
Can I therefore ask the selectmen, because we've got time, we're not gonna okay, you go.
Oh, I just wanted to say one thing, normally when I know I'm gonna vote no on something, I say it up front before the vote's taken. And I do that because I'm gonna be asked anyway,
Yeah,
and I feel that my reason for dissenting might be worthwhile to someone else, so that's what I usually do. So in the future,
That's
you might
fine.
wanna consider doing that.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that we were
You
able
can
to
say
do
anything
that.
you want, really.
Yeah, well, I wanna know the process on that,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
that's the case.
But that's the way I do it.
Yeah, fine,
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that.
Sure.
I'd ask that the selectmen go back and figure out whether this is the right piece of equipment or not, because if it's gonna go into this thing, and we're gonna put the reserve account, and it's so tabled this way,
Mhm.
we can always read it
Well, I mean,
next time.
yeah, well, exactly, I mean,
Yeah.
because it's just a reserve, my comfort level's okay, but I agree that perhaps it needs further discussion. This just puts the money aside,
Yeah.
so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but it's been put aside for this thing, so you can't use it to buy
Anything else?
anything else.
Correct.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I'd ask that they go back and do it, and we're not, I think it's past at this point, I'm not gonna make them do it.
Yeah.
Well, the only other thing that I'm going to tell you, Rocco,
Yes.
honestly, it is interesting, and I'm not gonna oversimplify the voters at town meeting, the ones that show up, but it will be more looked at if it doesn't get a 6-0 vote.
Mhm.
Somebody's going to raise the question, well, how come it was 4-2? At the town meeting. We know why we did it, but there is a chance, better than usual, when it is not a complete unanimous recommendation for it to go to the voters, that somebody usually picks up on
Yeah.
it,
Okay.
for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think in general, it's reasonable to establish the reserve account, and I think this is gonna be looked at again, and before it goes out the door, it's gonna be voted on, so I'm happy with that, just.
But, I mean, I guess what I'd like to do is
Yeah.
establish the reserve account, if there's a way we can do it, to establish it in a way that we can be more flexible on the
Well,
equipment purchase.
I have to,
description.
you have to give some credibility to the staff. They may not be using this piece of equipment in a way that is normally used, but if they think it can work, I mean, you know, the place has to function somehow up there.
I totally agree, we can
Yeah,
ask, there's no
so-
reason why you can't ask the question though.
Yeah,
Right.
Well, let's see if we can more broadly word the description. If we can, the next time we all meet, you'll see it again.
yeah.
So we will
I think
change
the
the wording.
biggest concern was that the backhoe that they're currently using really isn't quite big enough to be hauling those containers around.
Mhm.
It's putting a lot of excessive wear and tear on that backhoe, and they wanted a bigger piece of equipment. And that would probably be classified as the primary use of the piece of equipment. Secondary use would be snow clearing, crushing glass, yada yada.
Mhm.
But primarily it's for pulling those big containers around.
One suggestion for that is that when you pull containers like that with a loader, you're gonna end up damaging the bottom rails on them, and so you can buy a shunner truck for 25,000 used, that you can move those around a lot easier than dragging it with a piece of equipment. That's just my, 2 cents.
Are they keeping the backhoe?
Yeah, keeping the back on.
So they'll still have that to pack the containers and
Oh, yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Article M, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $52,000 to purchase and install a fire suppression system in the town office fire alarms. Does this help us on our insurance at all, also?
I don't believe it will, because we have, I can check. I
I mean,
imagine it's gonna help a lot.
Well, I think it would be a worthwhile statement to be able to make that if we could.
You know, I can let Bob talk to this, because he's a lot more familiar with
Yeah,
this. than I
that's a
am.
good question about the insurance.
Yeah.
I didn't even think to ask that.
Okay.
But we've got a file room here that's got all the town records in it, historical records, first floor and down in the basement. And when I came in here as a selectman, I realized that there is no fire protection in there, other than fireproof cabinets and safes. And I think you'll agree that even though they're advertised as 1 hour, 2 hour fire protection, you know, you get a fire in there that's roaring, so the stuff's gonna get damaged. And I think that these are worthwhile documents that we don't take a risk with, and I think that they need to be protected with a fire protection system.
Okay.
Are the documents digitized at all, or no?
I believe they are digitized, but you also have to have the originals.
Yeah, I understand that.
Are there documents down in the basement also?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In the specific room for.
Yeah.
Right below the existing one.
Is that, I mean, those are the ones that go back to like 1800 and that type of thing
Yeah.
down there?
Yeah.
So are those worthwhile being protected also?
Yeah, that's part of it.
Is that part of it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. First, the first floor vault and right below it and down
I
the basement
think
vault.
that's worthwhile knowing too. Yeah.
Is it a dry or wet system?
Dry.
It's not a
call it-
sprinkler system.
No,
it's
it's not sprinkler.
Yeah,
It's
no,
a-
suppression.
They call it clean agent.
Yeah, okay, that just.
It doesn't spray fire extinguisher, dust, powder. It suffocates the flame.
Yeah, right, okay, no, that's helpful to understand.
Is there a way are all the documents valuable between the two spaces? In other words, are they all original, have to be saved, or are there ones that if you just have an offline copy, digital copy, you could have
That would assume,
area?
that would assume probably a level of organization that may or may not be true.
Well, or,
Or
I think the
Or
level of
it is.
organization's probably okay, it's the level of segregation. So
Yeah, maybe it's not.
obviously, employee tax records from 20 years ago, you don't need to worry about. I don't, you know, we have had a shredder in from time to time to get rid of old stuff, but it may not be valuable to the average citizen, some of this historical stuff, but if somebody's doing deed research or somebody's doing,
Yeah.
you know, historical,
If it's digital, you don't need it though.
Well, do you still want to lose it?
That's a question I'm at, no, but if it, what depends what it is, if it's, you know, if it's the 2010 tax bills that you print off a computer,
right?
you don't care, you digitize it, you don't care.
Yeah, no, but you've got some historical documents there that I think are worth
And
saving.
the
My question is only is it, I'm asking a question that's kind of like, where you could have the load, put half in one place and half
Right,
in the other
that's-
place, and only do this fire suppression in the one area, so you have to pay 26 versus 52.
I don't think it works like that, but I see your point.
It probably doesn't work, but I figured I'd ask the question to figure
Yeah, I'm
out.
not sure half of it is disposable. I guess we'd have to do a little more inventory there.
Well, we're not voting on that though tonight. It's the amount of money for this particular thing, so.
No, I brought it forward because I think it's a worthwhile expense for the historical records of the town. And you can vote me up, you can vote me down, but that's my recommendation, and I'm standing by it.
Oh, so this is not, recommended by the Board of Selectmen, there you go.
All these are,
It's recommended to go before the voters to see if they
Yeah.
wanna pay 52 grand.
All right, do we have a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to accept Article M as written.
A second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor for approving Article M as written? Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Carried unanimously. So Chip, you think that we should read Article N at this time? I don't think so.
He just put these down at the bottom.
Yeah, it should be down at the bottom.
Well, he put the other two because he was in
Yeah,
the where they're gonna go.
disregard the order of things here.
What's that?
Disregard the order of things. So the total budget of $4,752,753 will be the last money article.
Exactly. Oh, I see, and the other two are not money?
They're not
articles?
money articles.
Ah, gotcha, okay, okay. Well, we're not gonna vote on Article N tonight, so,
And that's because of what?
well, it may change a little bit. We still have a couple of warrants that are,
That
oh, this is
doesn't-
the operating
Yeah,
budget.
this doesn't
right,
include
yeah.
any more articles.
Okay.
So if you wanna
If we, all
review any of the operating budget,
right,
then don't vote on that tonight.
so is the budget committee formally approving this amount of money tonight? And not at the budget hearing? Normally, I seem to remember that we approve the total budget warrant at the meeting that's conducted for the public.
And that's,
After the question.
that's your decision to make.
Okay,
It's
I would,
That's what was done last year.
yeah, I would stick with that,
There you go.
okay. That would be my recommendation.
So we're tabling then N?
It's not really tabled, we're just not gonna do it tonight, that's all.
Okay.
Was it on the agenda?
It's one of the warrant articles is listed,
Oh,
but
tonight's
it's more appropriate, I think, to approve this in front of the public.
Well, you're gonna have to adjust it if you get enough movement
The hearing.
at the public meeting.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. All right, so
because
let's,
it- Yeah,
what I'm suggesting is we just jump to Article O.
yeah, these are non-money articles. The reason for Article O is the will be held in perpetuity for the benefit of the general public, both residents and non-residents. That language needs to be approved by our voters for us to be eligible for a $100,000 grant for the work on Pier 19 or Union Wharf. Sorry.
It has to be accessible to non-residents too, to get it.
It has to be acceptable to the general,
Yeah.
accessible to the
Yeah,
general.
General
public.
public.
Yeah.
I have a very good question that's near and dear to my heart on this,
Okay,
is what does it mean accessible to the general public?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same question,
What-
because
what
I
is
was
that-
thinking
what is that-
airplanes.
what is- Yeah, so what does that mean? In other words, so that means that anybody
No,
who
we-
wants to run a commercial operation on that?
no,
Alright, so
no. We can set limitations on that accessibility. We can set parking limitations, we can set usage limitations, but we can't exclude the general public from usage. That's all this is doing.
but this is very broad.
I'm just putting the language in that, DES and the lawyer from the AG's office needs to hear our voters say that it's gonna be held in perpetuity.
So I would vote against this if I saw it.
Would you?
And the reason why I vote against it is because I don't think that it should be available for commercial use, other than to the extent it services residents of Tuftonboro. So the town of Tuftonboro is putting $300,000 of taxpayer money
Mhm.
into this pier that's being paid for by them.
Mhm.
And I don't think that people should be able to take advantage of that, where they're not paying a dime for it, to use it for their own financial gain.
Okay, so all the barge traffic that goes in and out of there,
That's for Tuftonboro residents.
but it's not all for Tuftonboro residents.
Then I have an issue with that then,
And I,
because it's getting utilized and taken out for, we're spending money as a town,
right, non-resident, use,
Yeah.
commercial use.
we're taking money from Tuftonboro taxpayers
Mhm.
and using it to benefit people in other towns.
And that is the case, obviously, we
You
see it
know-
all around the lane, not saying it's right.
Does it
With
have to say?
all due respect, I think we're barking up a bad tree here, okay?
Can you just end it?
My understanding
perpetuity
is
for the
that
general public?
anything,
Can it just say perpetuity for the general public, or?
No, it has to be.
It has to be specifically as written in
That's the
this.
language that they gave me.
let me just outline what I think is going on here. Any structure that goes out over the water is owned by the
That's
state.
right,
Well,
And we
No.
owned, okay? Now, we have control over it. In other words, we can set local rules on, you know, you can't have a fire out there or something like that on that pier. But the state compels,
well, okay, Gary, I think you're mixing apples and oranges. We're applying for and should be given a grant and right for the property underneath the wharf, which we should have had in the
yes, yeah,
1960s.
yeah.
Okay, once that's accomplished,
Mhm.
we can set, I think, I know you don't, it's too broad as it's worded, but my reading of this is that we could set a Tuftonboro resident only commercial use without violating the terms of the agreement with the state as far as the grant is concerned, I think, but I haven't
We
run
have
that
the-
by them.
Authority to charge fees for commercial traffic too, if we want.
Yeah, but I would do, so
Yeah.
I would have that, cause I think it's really, it should be for the benefit, it should be for, you know, the benefit of Tuftonboro, so in other words, that the people that those people are servicing commercially should be Tuftonboro residents that are benefiting.
Well,
Cause-
That's a really hard thing to police.
Yeah,
But it doesn't matter if you police or if it's wrong or not, it's sort of, it's
Yeah.
kind of irrelevant,
Yeah.
but when it becomes, cause examples you're citing are not egregious.
Yeah,
But if somebody comes in and stop, well, hey, this thing was approved for all public use, you can't stop me. Take a hike.
Well,
The town voted for it.
okay, they voted to hold it in public. The reason for the vote is that, so that some budget committee or group of selectmen 10 years from now doesn't have an entrepreneur come by and say, I'll give you 20 million bucks for that wharf, and they sell it. You know, all of a sudden now it's not a public asset.
yeah.
My feeling when we were talking about it with the AG was, we'll put a $20 million penalty on it if we do sell it. I mean, that would be a lot easier.
Mm,
We make it so agreed, or uncomfortable to
yeah.
retail public
I think,
property.
I think what they mean by public benefit is just that it's a general thing, but on the other hand, I think the town is in a position to set weight limits and do all kinds of things, so.
And just to clarify, we can not, and we're not looking for the budget committee's approval on this, because it's a non-monetary
Yeah,
article.
yeah,
But if it fails, if you can prevail and it fails, all that means is that we'll spend the $287,000 that we already have. All this is enabling us to do is to get an additional $100,000 to offset that 287 price.
Right, but what, I think where Rob is going is that we're selling, we could be selling our soul because we're, you know, the AG's telling us, oh, just put this in there, you're good. And I think Rob's point is that, yeah, that might not be in our best interest.
Well, you could just say it will be held in perpetuity for the non-commercial benefit of Tuftonboro residents or of the general public and Tuftonboro residents. Just have the word non-commercial in there.
What are
Alright.
people that are in
I don't think they're
I'll
talking about
see.
use, I think they're talking about ownership.
I'm sorry?
I don't think they're talking about use, I think they're
You're
talking
talking
about
about
ownership.
yeah, yeah.
No, not in that grant. There are two separate things. One is the grant and right, which is our
Yeah,
ownership.
all right,
of the
define held in
grant.
perpetuity.
This held in perpetuity means that it is held by the town of Tuftonboro forever.
That's my
Forever.
point.
But
That's-
for the benefit of the general public,
Right.
both residents and non.
So
So you
it-
can
it-
never,
it-
you can never do what Wolfboro did, say the beach side are all the
Right.
residents.
Right.
But then you
You're tying
limit,
your hand up here with this vote.
I think we still have the authority to put conditions if we want to.
We can, but we can't exclude non-residents, which is Rob's issue.
Right.
Right.
right,
Well, we can charge them a fee.
well,
Or we cannot do it. I mean, we don't have to do it. We have, we can get the first warrant article passed. We don't need the money. All I was trying to do, or we were trying to do, was this is an opportunity to offset $100,000 worth of expenses. Is this something you're interested in?
Is it worth it, is it worth the savings to have this kind of writing in
Right.
that.
And how
But you
much-
don't have to, but you don't have to do it.
No, but I would
Right.
just put the word non-commercial in there, and then it's
Right.
for people, and I would take out, I would just, I don't know, I'd probably just take it for whole in perpetuity.
You have to put that in,
Yeah, well, I know, will be held in perpetuity
yeah,
by the town, just delete everything else.
right.
You could just say that, then you take this whole issue off the table.
I think I think you'll find that the folks down in Concord are gonna object to that.
Well, if they object, then we gotta do
I
it.
mean, maybe you'll get a better explanation out of them too, and you can, you know,
I just think you need to limit,
yeah,
you need to limit that the general public.
yeah.
Everybody can't now go and stake a claim to do whatever the hell they want on that thing, you know, and do it. And it's already a contentious spot, given what's happened
You
with
know,
the
yeah,
town, with the,
Airplane.
and the Union Wall.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I think you're gonna find that we have to have this language in here, but at the same time, the town can control who can use it and when.
Oh, yeah, they listed all of the
Yeah.
things that we could do.
And so it almost becomes moot because we can control it.
That's a policy.
But then I would stick, in the town's making a vote here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd stick all those things in it, the selectmen can do this in here. But I would keep it, I'd keep it simple, I'd just basically add in here that it,
So, to be clear,
Yeah,
how we vote on this doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm not even so
My
sure we have
understanding
to
is
vote on
that
it.
whether we vote on this or not, doesn't matter as a committee.
Yeah,
But when this comes to the town,
yeah,
so this is
Rob the town member might just
Yeah.
say, hey, wait a minute. And not just you, Rob, but could be
Yeah.
anybody
Right.
is going to balk at this because there's not enough language here. That's really the concern. We really don't have any say in the matter right now anyway.
Well, this is budget committee, recommended by the budget committee.
No, that's just,
Is that
Yeah,
wrong?
it's just-
that was just, that was just put in.
It's a
there.
non-monetary article,
Okay.
so.
So you're not looking to limit people fishing there and
No.
things
No.
like that
No.
as far as it goes?
No.
It's just like commercial use,
If I
'cause
may.
I think
Go
that
ahead.
question would come up.
In our meetings with DES and others from Concord, including Councilor Kenny, one of the things that they were most impressed with was the fact that we have allowed the general public to use that, and that is a big draw. And I think that's gonna be very important in getting the grant and right, and, which we don't have yet, as you're aware. And I don't know if we take language out, I'm not sure how that's gonna go in Concord.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really tricky, but I'm absolutely convinced that when we told them this is for general public use, that really,
Yeah,
I know in Randy Pelletier's mind, it went up, and he's a big man in DES, for example, that's a good thing. It's the only place where you can put a barge in and out, or, tie up in Tuftonboro, for
Yeah.
example. All right, doesn't matter whose barge it is, but it's the only place that we allow it. So it's kinda damned if you do and damned if you don't, but if we don't get that grant and right, then the whole thing's gone.
yeah, yeah.
We gotta have that.
Yeah, we need that.
I'm not so sure why this wouldn't be on the ballot. Rather
Well, I
than,
wanna put it on the ballot,
yeah,
but we haven't gotten that approval from DRA yet.
I think we gotta push that direction.
Put what on the ballot?
These
This shouldn't be on
non-monetary
on the warrant that we're gonna be doing the town meeting, it should be on the
They
ballot.
should be on the ballot. No, Gary, I agree.
Yeah, it's non-monetary, yeah, that would
I
work.
agree.
Sure.
And our town clerk's looking into that too.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I think you
Because
would.
the next one is.
It's the same thing.
It's
It's-
the same thing.
You know,
You're proposing to build a smaller police station for the.
Asking
amount of money
permission to
you
build a
have.
smaller police station with the money that we
and
have.
it's just gonna be a
Well, that
majority
is
vote anyway.
Cost.
That is minority, that is monetary.
It will be fully functional.
It
No, the
is.
money's already
It'll be
there.
neat.
It's already-
I know,
We
but
want to
what
have
you're
to
saying to
come
the
phase
voters is
two.
you've set this money aside for this specific purpose. But now we're gonna switch it on you, and we're gonna use the money to do something that's
Well,
this
think
purpose
it-
minus 20%.
Think it over, because we can, if you consider it a monetary article, then
I do.
let's,
I do.
okay, then the next time we meet, or you wanna do it now?
Well, let's just talk about it for a minute. Why are we, first of all, why are we doing Article P?
Because the USDA,
Oh,
who's giving us a grant of somewhere around $300,000.
right,
Said, yeah, everything's fine, even though you make it smaller, we'll still give you the same amount of money.
okay.
But you have to get a positive approval from the voters.
That they can build smaller, that we can build smaller.
Right.
Okay, so what I'm suggesting is that, why do we have to give them a percentage? What you just said was, all we have to do is get the permission from the town, and we can build a smaller station and still qualify for the USDA grant. Why don't we just say that and let it go at that, and put that on the ballot too?
Don't think the voters get to know.
They might want an explanation, a little more
What?
meat
I
to
have-
talk about, which is easy to do.
I think if you put down 25%, you're gonna have to show some figures.
Yeah, I think the voter, if you have to show the figures, I think it'd be 100% transparent on this issue.
You show the floor.
We are.
I mean,
I'm
just looking
agreeing
at
with you.
the floor plan.
Yeah,
It's about 25% smaller than
yeah.
the original floor plan design.
It just,
So-
people balked at this, that, what it was last time, and,
Well, they balked at it for being too big, to
Too
be
big.
frank with you.
right,
So,
exactly.
I don't
And
think
so
we're gonna
this
do-
is basically coming back, humbling ourselves, and saying, okay, sure, let's,
Well, why don't we couch it another way?
What
that-
they voted on was no more money.
Right.
That was what they voted on.
Exactly.
Not that the building is too big or too
No,
round.
but they verbally, they squawked
It-
about it.
Well,
Yeah.
verbally they can do whatever they
Yeah,
want,
yeah,
but they
yeah.
voted on no more money. So
Maybe,
what we can do is present them something that will, you can build for the money they already have spent.
so USDA actually said that they'll honor the grant, and we can build a smaller library, but we want the voters to approve it?
Yeah.
Agree
Agreed?
that it's okay to build a smaller police facility.
they're gonna get less for their money, so they wanna make sure that it's okay with the voter.
Okay,
Who already said no more money.
yeah. I just think we ought to just say something to the effect, this is to ask for your approval to modify the original terms of the grant. Whereas we could build only a certain size, we can now build something smaller. Let it go at that,
Our request to the DEA was unprecedented.
yeah.
They don't usually allow this type of thing to happen.
So they're controlling this language?
Not so much the language, just the intent.
Okay, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying, I think the intent of what I'm saying.
So I'd gladly pass this off to you, Gary, to rewrite it. And the intent is that we're gonna we're asking the voters if we can build a station smaller
Of
than the one
course,
that
I
was originally
understand, I understand,
presented.
yeah, yeah.
For the same amount of money, they put aside, for the one they voted.
Oh, for the
against.
same amount of money?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that could be tricky.
No, they're not, we're not asking them for the same money we did last year, we're not asking for any more money.
For the amount of money
So
we
the-
have.
The 1,700,000 sitting in the
Yeah.
bank, or
Yeah.
1,400,000.
But the implication is that we should be reducing the cost if we're reducing the.
Well, if you've tracked construction costs.
Yeah,
over the
No,
last
I know,
few
I know,
years,
I
Yeah.
That's why we're where we are
Yeah,
today.
I know.
Yeah.
But this- to me,
That's
this-
why we had to ask for more money last year.
And it failed.
Because construction costs went through the
Right.
roof.
Yeah.
Right.
To me, this has been such a contentious issue in the town for whatever reason that you gotta disclose everything. Lay it all out, let them take a look.
So,
at it
so
and
what
vote on
do
it.
you see as being needed more in this language?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to control the size of the, or the
Yeah.
amount of language, but obviously the information has to be out there available.
Yeah, I mean, I think, for instance, you have right now, the plans for the police station on the site. I think you got about, do you have new plans or a new proposal? I think that needs to.
We've seen a rendering.
Gives it rendering.
We have seen a rendering,
Yeah,
yes.
so that all should be up on the site so people can see it, you know, and they can look at it, and, I mean, and that is here, I think, and if this is approximately 25% smaller, I think that is the right description, I think that's the good thing, you ask them to build the police station 25% smaller, and you put it up, whatever you have, you put up on the police, on the, it's on the website, the town website, but under the police department.
Right.
Quick question with this too, so do we have to utilize those monies in a certain period of time? Like, in other words, we're gonna be entering into a pretty uncertain time in the economy where hypothetically, and I'm thinking it, those costs may come down. Is there,
It's
do
in
we
the
have
capital
to?
reserve
The
fund.
first, I think the first capital reserve we did is gonna term out in 3 years, but I can check on that. Like, you can't hold it forever.
Sure, yeah.
So I would suggest we consider the following, at the very end of the paragraph, right after the word "and," strike all those words out of there, beginning with the word and use the words, "and avoid inflationary pressure to raise additional monies from taxes."
This is after which and here?
What's that?
On the
Already
last-
voted and?
Yeah, and avoid inflationary pressure to raise
Okay.
that one.
additional money from taxes.
Comment, if I may?
Yes, sir.
So, having done a few of these with the USDA for different types of things, and knowing the contentiousness of this whole project over the years, it would seem to me to be prudent to share with folks in plain, simple language that the non-approval of this particular warrant eliminates the grant.
Well, you don't wanna do that, that'll be an invitation, people
And it
walking
doesn't.
through that door left and right.
And it also doesn't eliminate the grant. The man told us this is one of our 2 last chances. We
Yeah.
still have that grant. If it
Yeah.
doesn't go this year, we have another shot at it.
So the message that we wanna get across
Sorry.
is that we will not
Okay.
have to raise
That's not what I
additional
heard.
money
That's-
Right,
by reducing the size of this.
yes.
So what I'm suggesting is that
I mean, we explained
add those
it.
words where, you use the word avoid and inflationary pressure and not have to raise additional money from taxes. I mean, tell them what the benefit is. That's why I'm suggesting these words, okay? Whereas the words that we're deleting don't say anything really.
If we're making changes to this, I would say passes will enable selectmen to have a new police station without a selectman to build for the town or to, I mean, the
I'm
selectmen-
not building.
Well, but I know, but you're not gonna have a new police station either, right? It's not yours, it's the town's, last time I checked, right?
Yeah. These all get fleshed out at town meeting. I'm not really concerned about wording on that one. It'll be explained. It'll be explained that we've also, architect has set it up to be a phased operation. Phase 1 giving them a useful and workable police station. Phase 2 adding some niceties, so to speak. A meeting room, a gym, these kind of things, but not absolute necessities to have a workable and much more functional police station. And you can write all that down. If you put it on the ballot, you'll have to, but I'd rather do that at town meeting so you can talk to
Right.
people.
Right.
So the issue is that phase one, is phase one, this thing that's already paid for?
Yes,
And phase two
So-
has to get paid for?
So phase 1 is essentially what we're talking about.
exactly right there.
Okay, so any phase 2, which would be essentially
Sometime.
the optionals,
Yep.
if you will.
Yep, would be later on.
Would be later on.
And you have to, I mean, ultimately, the selectmen take the blame for everything.
Right.
So you have to say you're enabling or empowering the selectmen to
Sure.
do
Move forward.
Okay.
Yeah,
what
that's,
you're doing.
that's,
Well, to move forward, it's not.
that's usually understood.
Yeah. These instructions, of course.
So
The
now,
amount of money already voted and approved by the town at previous meetings, and no additional money to be raised from taxes. I think that's good language to me.
Well, I think, that's what I would suggest, just strike out those last words and use those words there. People understand inflation and they understand pressure to raise taxes and they don't wanna do it, so. Okay, I'll leave it up to
I'm not a
Chip.
professional on writing these things. I just think that's very, to Guy's point, that's when you can probably talk to
Anyway, we're not voting on this, right?
tonight.
No,
Okay,
No,
Or
but I
not voting on it at
appreciate
all.
your input on language and also
yeah,
on getting it on the ballot. I'll make sure to mention to our
okay.
people that are on the ballot.
So, because you think this is non-monetary?
It is non-monetary,
we're not asking for more money.
right?
It's monetary in the sense that obviously money's
being
Coming
spent.
up.
coming in, coming out.
Will be spent, but
We're not gonna vote on O.
But the money
it will
Is
be
it
spent, but we already
protected
have
this
spent.
But we already
It's not
have it.
tabled, we're just not,
And
it's
what's
not
the-
us.
What's the difference between this and Union and Wolf?
Doesn't fall under, you don't want
What's
that?
that, Roland?
What's the difference between this and Union and Wolf?
Neither one of them
You
are.
need more, we're actually asking the voters to take money out of their savings account and put it back into a spendable account for building or doing local repairs. So it doesn't raise any taxes because they've already paid that tax.
Okay.
But we are asking to spend their money. We could say, if they say no on Union Work, let's take it to the end. then that $287,000 is gonna sit there waiting for the selectmen when they set the tax rate to say, all right, let's put $287,000 towards the taxes, they don't wanna rebuild the wharf.
And why isn't it the same thing with the police department? It's set the money
No,
aside
no.
already.
I think
Because-
You're talking about two different things.
Right,
Yeah,
we're
but I
not
think-
asking them to spend that money, they've already authorized us to spend the $1.4 million that we've got in the bank. It's just that the $1.4 million won't build what we told them it would build. So the question is, will they let us build something smaller? And to Guy's point, if we ask the question twice and get no and it for an answer twice, that $1.4 million will probably go back to the taxpayers, because they don't wanna build a police station. I mean, I don't think we
Right.
should come to that, but.
I think we just keep the
I
police
don't
station.
know
as
enough, but it sounds
acceptable.
monetary to me too. It was getting back to, it just sounds monetary to me. It doesn't, I can't really find a distinction between the Union Wharf and the police station.
I think the original warrant article for Union Wharf was non-expendable.
Yeah, it was a non, no,
No,
not,
Not expiring?
Expired.
No.
what's
The
what's
original
What's
one-
the word? Thank you.
It was lapsing.
Non-lapsing.
Non-lapsing.
yeah.
It wasn't a non-lapsing.
If we could figure out, I mean, to get into the weeds a little bit, if we could figure out how to build this police station exactly how it's designed for $1.7 million,
Would
we
million
would,
four would be
we'd
done.
ask you
Sure.
or anybody else, we
We
just
just
go
go.
it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Because we have the authority to spend the money and it's all been voted on.
Right.
The difference with Union Wharf is we don't have the money anymore. We need some, let's back on them. Trust the company.
All right, so we're done with the warrants, and I just want to reiterate that we've tabled articles or warrants B, C, and H. Next item on the agenda is correspondence. I don't have any. Has anyone got any correspondence? No? Go ahead.
B, C, and H, you said?
B, C, and
Yeah.
I
I.
was gonna say H,
What?
it was I, I
We
believe.
tabled B, C, and I.
Hold it. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
B, C, and I. Now, before we leave the warrants, there was this rear page that I found, which discusses the budget comparison, and I guess maybe that's part of the next section, new business, so Board of Selectmen update.
Yeah, just do that calculation, so you didn't
Okay.
have to do it yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
took last year's budget. The difference is I didn't count the $287,000 for,
You know what?
Union Wharf, sorry,
Mm.
in my, last year's calculation.
I'm a little bit concerned about the 20% possible increase in the tax rate. Um,
20
if we-
cent, not 20%.
It's 10%. It's
Yeah,
nine
it's
point nine, it's
10%.
the same as the rate.
It's
of
10%.
increase.
Tax rate, yes,
Right.
okay. No, I said 20 cent.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I heard percent.
I heard percent as well. You did say percent.
yeah. Okay, anyway, so.
That's just an estimate.
It's an estimate, and depending upon what we can draw out of the.
I mean, back to the Union Wharf, if we can come up with language that's livable, and we get 100,000, that starts pushing that number down, because we're not spending 287, we're
Yeah.
only spending 187.
Right.
If we get a more highway block grant, I mean, our income has been changing dramatically over the last couple of years.
Sure,
And there's also some federal grant money for this, that, and the other thing. so.
yeah. I think those are very worthwhile points to make sure they get mentioned
Yeah.
in the annual meeting.
Yeah. And this is keeping track of the envelope estimate.
And why is the 287 in the 1192? Because it's not, why is it in the tax increase? Because you're not raising new taxes for it.
No, okay, it isn't in
In the
the
1192?
1192, right.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
It isn't in the 997125 either.
Either,
It
right.
should have been.
Yeah, it's a wash.
No, it
No.
should
No,
have
it's not.
been in
It
that
should have
one,
been in that
because
one,
we
right.
paid for that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, so why don't we do that? Because we can't?
No, this is me trying to get something done in 5 minutes,
Oh,
which I
okay.
should have taken 10 minutes.
So this is gonna look, this is gonna look better with that.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a much lower rate of increase.
no, I mean, you may be down in the 9.2, I don't know, I could figure it out.
Well, I mean, the comparison's gonna be better,
Yeah,
cause you're gonna have 1.2 million, 1.3 million
It's gonna shrink it rather than
for
grow.
warrant articles in
Would
2022.
you shrink it rather than
Yeah,
grow it?
yeah.
And you're gonna have 800,000 for 2023.
yeah, so your total was 5,693,465 versus, so you're still 300,000, well, not quite 300,000, 280,000.
It's 5.7 million versus 5.6, you're going down, right? 5.6 million, from 5.7 to 5.6.
No, 5.4 to 5.9.
Don't you have to add the 287 to 2022?
I added the 287,000.
Yes, so 5.4 plus 287 is 5.7.
Right.
And then out of the 5.9, you have to 5.6.
Yeah, no, you can't subtract the 287 twice. I already
Already
took it out,
subtracted.
the 1192 already has that out. Just so you,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't,
Sorry.
yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone have any idea what other towns are looking at for budget increases in percentages?
I only know what I read in the paper.
Yeah,
I read that Wolfboro's looking at 9%.
9.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, it's 9% this year, but all of those bond issues that
Oh,
they're
yeah.
talking about are not gonna come due till next year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they've got a lot of,
I mean, a $12 million bond is gonna push
Yeah.
up more than
yeah.
1 or 2%.
They got lots of splendor to do next year.
But they don't have to, you don't have to put that into the tax calculation until 24.
Were they interest only or something? The bonds?
No, it doesn't, you don't have to put it in until it's spent.
Oh,
So you get the municipal bond, it goes to the bond bank, you spend it to build the project, and then it hits
Then it hits.
and the payments start.
Any other comments, Chip?
So let's just make sure I'm clear on where we're at. We need all of the highway numbers
Mm-hmm.
for
5-year plan.
21 and 22,
Yeah.
the plan,
And the road agent report.
The solar panels, some information on the, kind of, or the degree of.
just gonna give you the 4 proposals that we have. And they're pretty
They'll lay it out,
self-explanatory.
I'm sure they'll lay out exactly how they.
Yeah, they want you to do the power purchase agreement, that's
Mhm.
where they make all their money, but they also include we own it,
Okay.
so it's 4 solar proposals. And then there's, what was the other one you tabled? You tabled I.
O goes to the ballot,
I'm sorry?
hopefully.
The ballot
O-
issue.
O goes to the ballot, hopefully.
O and P.
Yeah, the wording,
P,
the verbiage.
yeah,
But wasn't there another money article you failed to agree on?
No, it was just the
It
three.
was
It was the two
the
highway and
two
the
road
one,
ones
yeah.
and then the
and
solar.
then solar.
That
Right,
was all.
right.
Right.
And I think Article P, well.
We asked for one other piece of information, we
The
approved.
wheel loader?
The wheel loader.
Oh, the wheel loader.
Was
Or
approved, just
the
go,
capital
just to
reserve.
take a look and make sure.
Just for
the
the
wheel
capital
loader is the
reserve
right piece of
aspect.
equipment.
Right, right.
So in other words, we didn't approve the money for the whole wheel loader, we approved the 50,000 to go into escrow, if you will.
We haven't finished writing.
Capital
That's it.
reserve, sorry,
This is
wrong
a
term.
draft.
But I thought
The wheel loader's an
I thought I
approved
heard
warrant, I
discussion.
mean, we're done
Okay.
with that.
Going back to Chip and get them to clarify.
And we're not gonna ask you for more, different money,
I'll talk about that.
but we need to clarify what we're asking.
Yeah, whether it was the,
because we're
right.
coming
Yeah,
down.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
What's
yeah.
the date of town meeting anyway?
Middle of March.
Second Wednesday of March.
15th, 16th, 17th, right in there, second Wednesday.
Sorry, what was the second Wednesday of March?
Every year,
Okay, no, it's,
except for one COVID year when we had it in May.
It'll be the 8th.
thank you. For my birthday. Let's turn mine
And I think we're done. All approved?
Thank you, everybody, much appreciated. I got